This is the greatest untold story in all of One Piece. We all know that Oda has countless pages of character notes that he often can't actually include in the manga due to time constraints. But there is one character in particular that we never got to see, whose story is far more exciting than anyone else that never made it to the page. A character with one of the most important lores in One Piece, who shaped one of the largest conflicts in the entire story, and who was, in his prime, one of the most powerful pirates in existence. This is the untold story of Hanafuda, the Lost Shichibukai. Hanafuda was revealed in SBS 109 to be the Shichibukai that Ace defeated 4 years ago, which opened up the spot for Bartholomew Kuma to join the Shichibukai. But that is just the tip of the iceberg, as there is a far deeper lore around the character that can be pieced together from all the context clues that were given in that SBS. See, Hanafuda was not just a Shichibukai, he was in fact once Kaido's greatest ally, above even Doflamingo. Whereas Doflamingo supplied Kaido's rank-and-file foot soldiers with knockoff Zoan fruits, the infamous Smiles, it seems that Hanafuda was the one who supplied Kaido with all of the mighty, super rare ancient Zoans that the Beast Pirates' elite officers, the Tobiropo and the Calamities, wielded. And it seems that Hanafuda himself was likely the wielder of the most powerful ancient Zoan fruit of all, the Tyrannosaurus Rex fruit. And most interestingly, it seems that this mighty Shichibukai, Kaido's greatest ally, was defeated by Ace specifically during Ace's famous trip to Wano 4 years ago. That's right. Piecing it all together, this is the most epic hidden tale in all of One Piece, of an absolutely terrifying, brutal villain who was Ace's greatest and final challenge as a pirate captain before Ace joined Whitebeard's crew. So let's break down the full story from the start of One Piece's greatest lost character, Hanafuda. But first, Surfshark is offering a deal for less than $3 a month for my viewers right now. That's right, while most high-quality VPNs cost about $13 to $15 a month, right now Surfshark, an award-winning world-class VPN, and the sponsor of this video, is giving my viewers a deal for less than $3 a month. And not only can you use it for basically nothing, Surfshark is also offering a 30-day money-back guarantee. So you can essentially try Surfshark for free. And on top of that, Surfshark is also giving all of my viewers an additional 4 months for free. And just in case you don't know what a VPN is, you've probably been hearing a lot about them. VPNs are what most people use nowadays to surf the web, because VPNs protect your data online and they open up the entire internet to you. See, normally you only get to experience a small part of the internet, because you are locked to your regional location. But with VPNs, you can change your location to anywhere you want on the planet, so you get access to everything. You can play in game servers in Asia. You can get access to anime that's streaming for free on Netflix only in Japan. You can even stream football for free in other countries. So if you're not using a VPN, or if you're already spending on an expensive VPN, then just try out Surfshark since it's basically free. And you get a 30-day money-back guarantee. And my viewers get an additional 4 months for free with my code MORGE. So secure your privacy with Surfshark, get your deal for less than $3 a month, and enter coupon code MORGE for an additional 4 months free at surfshark.com/morge, or just scan the QR code. So that aside, to begin with, how do we know that Hanafuda was Kaido's ally, very likely his greatest ally, and the one who supplied Kaido and the Beast Pirates' elite officers with all of their ancient Zoans? Well, for starters, the very name Hanafuda refers to a type of Japanese playing cards, and of course Kaido's crew and all of Kaido's associated allies are similarly named after this playing card theme. King, Queen, and Jack are obvious examples. Who's Who is named after a playing card game. And Kaido's other major Shichibukai ally, Doflamingo, is nicknamed the Joker, with Doflamingo's own subordinate seats being named after card suits: spades, diamonds, clubs, and hearts. Hanafuda being yet another card-themed character immediately makes it likely that Oda is hinting at some connection to Kaido, and this connection becomes obvious once we read Hanafuda's description. See, we are told that Hanafuda is a famous collector of ancient Zoan fruits. Now, this all but guarantees that Kaido and the Beast Pirates' ancient Zoan fruits were all bought from Hanafuda for 2 reasons. First, the simple fact that all of Kaido's officers in the Beast Pirates, the Tobiropo, and the Calamities are all ancient Zoan users, literally each one of them from top to bottom, and this would simply be impossible through random chance. Remember, devil fruits are generally random. In no other group of devil fruit users do you ever see such uniformity in the type of devil fruits they have. The Whitebeard pirates all have plenty of different types of fruits between Paramecia, Logia, and Zoan. The Don Quixote family all boast a similar wide variety of fruits. Even the Blackbeard pirates, who all actively hunt specific devil fruits, all still end up with a large variety. The only time we've ever seen a crew have a somewhat disproportionate variety of a certain type of devil fruit was with the Big Mom Pirates, who seemingly had a lot of food-themed fruits, though even they still had a lot of other types of fruits mixed in. And the Big Mom Pirates at least make sense for having a high number of food-themed fruits, since they were based in the region of Totaland, which is specifically a vast network of food-based islands. This may have made it more likely that food-based devil fruits would pop up in this region. However, that is not the case for Wano and the Beast Pirates' Zoan fruits. Because if you look at all the devil fruit users from Wano that are not part of the Beast Pirates, you see a naturally expected wide variety of devil fruits. Kinemon's clothing fruit, the barrier fruit, the tanuki fruit, the clone fruit, Kanjuro's fruit, and so on. There is no particular prevalence of Zoan fruits. Wano is just as random in its devil fruit distribution as any other region. It's literally only if you look at the Beast Pirates where you see this abnormal homogeneity, where somehow all of the officers are Zoans, and not just Zoans, they are all somehow very specifically ancient Zoans, which is in itself an extremely rare type of Zoan. Devil fruits are so random that the chances of an entire crew all coincidentally having ancient Zoans, a rare subcategory within a subcategory of fruits, is logically impossible, unless they were all getting their fruits from a specific source. And so enter the ancient Zoan collector Hanafuda. If you have an entire crew of specifically ancient Zoans, and you have a character who specifically collected ancient Zoans, and this character is already thematically linked to said crew, well then there is a clear connection here. After all, Hanafuda had to have been doing something with all of the ancient Zoans that he was collecting. You can only eat one fruit yourself, so beyond that, all of the rest of the ancient Zoans that Hanafuda was collecting must have been used for something else, or else they would have just been useless fruits that he was carrying around. The simple answer is that he was selling them, and Hanafuda simply must have been selling them to Kaido because literally every single ancient Zoan user in existence is on Kaido's crew. This is it. This is the full list of existing ancient Zoans. They are all on the Beast Pirates. If several years back there was a character who was collecting ancient Zoans, and now every single known ancient Zoan user today is all on one crew, that means there factually was some transfer of ancient Zoans from this collector to this crew at some point. The only two possibilities are that either after Hanafuda's defeat, the Beast Pirates somehow conveniently found his stash and stole his ancient Zoans, or Hanafuda was actively collecting ancient Zoans and trading them to Kaido from the beginning. This explanation would perfectly fit with Kaido's motivations, actions, and history, as we know that Kaido has always been actively working towards constructing a crew specifically of Zoan users, and he historically does so by buying Zoans to be fed to his subordinates. That was literally the entire plot of the Dressrosa saga. Kaido was buying smile fruits from Doflamingo to try to turn as many of his foot soldiers into Zoans as possible. Of course, it makes sense that in the past, Kaido would have bought powerful Zoan fruits for his strongest officers as well. And this brings us to another interesting point, which is that Oda also seems to intend for the parallels between Hanafuda and Doflamingo to be very intentional. Symbolically, Hanafuda is to Ace what Doflamingo was to Luffy. When Luffy first entered the New World, his first big debut victory that sent ripples across the scene was defeating the Shichibukai Doflamingo. Similarly, 4 years prior to that, when Ace first entered the New World, his first big debut victory that sent ripples across the scene was defeating the Shichibukai Hanafuda. For both Ace and Luffy, defeating Hanafuda and Doflamingo respectively essentially marked their grand entrance into the New World. Considering all the other signs that already point to Hanafuda having been Kaido's secret dealer of Zoan fruits, much like Doflamingo, this final parallel of Hanafuda's role in Ace's story being identical to Doflamingo's role in Luffy's story seems to make it all the more certain. We also have clues to suggest that Hanafuda was an extraordinarily powerful character. To begin with, all the New World Shichibukai that we've seen, outside of Buggy, have been at least close to Yonko Commander level or higher. Hanafuda was likely no exception, as the simple fact that he collected ancient Zoan fruits in the first place means he had to have been an absolute monster. This is because ancient Zoans are extremely strong and tough to defeat, even by Zoan standards. And so for a single character to be farming the entire New World, killing ancient Zoan users left and right to collect their fruits, means that he must have been one of the strongest pirates in existence. Fittingly, it's likely that Hanafuda himself wielded the strongest ancient Zoan fruit in existence, the T-Rex fruit. The first and simplest reason is that Hanafuda's epithet is the King of the Lizards, and the name Tyrannosaurus Rex literally means King of the Lizards. If we explore the significance of the T-Rex further, the reason this dinosaur was named King of the Lizards in the first place is because historically, for decades, it was believed to be the largest carnivorous dinosaur in existence. T-Rex essentially became the iconic dinosaur, the most terrifying predator to ever walk the earth. In more recent times, larger carnivores have actually been discovered, but they haven't really made their way into mainstream knowledge and cultural consciousness the way the T-Rex has. As by the average person's knowledge, T-Rex is generally the largest and scariest dinosaur that comes to mind. It is very likely that this was the fruit that Hanafuda possessed, not just because of the very obvious hint in Hanafuda's own epithet, but in the simple fact that out of all of the known ancient zoans, the T-Rex fruit is interestingly missing from the roster. This is particularly strange considering T-Rex is simply the most popular and iconic dinosaur in existence. Jurassic Park's literal symbol is the T-Rex. T-Rex is the dinosaur, and yet Oda strangely chose to leave it out of all of the ancient zoans that we've seen. This is even stranger considering the fact that for years, most readers assumed that X Drake had the T-Rex fruit, only for Oda to reveal that X Drake's zoan was actually specifically not a T-Rex, but rather it was T-Rex's smaller and lesser-known cousin, the Allosaurus. This is just downright bizarre, because why not just make X Drake a T-Rex like everyone already assumes? Why instead clarify that this is a less recognizable and less formidable dinosaur that simply looks similar to a T-Rex, and then not include a T-Rex in the story at all? I mean, just looking at all the ancient zoans, Oda's pretty much checked off all of the most iconic prehistoric creatures, such as the pterodactyl, the triceratops, the saber-toothed tiger, the mammoth, and so on. Yet for some reason, when it comes to the most popular and most recognizable of all ancient creatures, it's left out. But now, with the existence of Hanafuda, suddenly this decision by Oda to never show us a T-Rex zoan user would make sense, as the T-Rex fruit seems to have been saved for a certain character. For the most special ancient zoan, the Tyrannosaurus, it makes sense that this fruit would have been reserved for a very special character, the hidden supplier behind the entire Beast Pirates, who in fact worked as his own entity and not as Kaido's subordinate. This also draws an interesting parallel symbolically between Hanafuda and Kaido himself, in terms of what Hanafuda may have represented in relation to Kaido, but you can get my extended thoughts on that on my weekly podcast, link in the description below. And finally, this brings us to the most interesting part of Hanafuda's story, his battle with Ace. So let's paint a picture here. Hanafuda is this extraordinarily powerful Shichibukai. He hunts the most dangerous game, ancient zoan fruit users, making Hanafuda an incredibly powerful character to be able to so regularly kill such powerful opponents. Hanafuda, much like Doflamingo, deals with the Yonko Kaido as his primary buyer, as he supplies Kaido and the Beast Pirates with the ancient zoan fruits for Kaido's strongest fighters. Hanafuda himself is known as the King of the Lizards, as he has eaten the strongest ancient zoan fruit for himself, the Tyrannosaurus Rex fruit. Now, a new up-and-coming rookie, Ace, arrives in the New World, and here is where it gets interesting. We know that Ace defeated Hanafuda about 4 years ago, and we know that Ace arrived in Wano about 4 years ago. Now that we've connected the dots of Hanafuda's extremely likely and close connection to Kaido and the Beast Pirates who rule Wano, suddenly the full scope of Ace's adventure in Wano becomes a lot more clear. Wano is where Ace likely defeated Hanafuda. After all, remember, Hanafuda, as far as we know, was not like Doflamingo, in that Hanafuda did not have a giant organization underneath him through which to do all of his dealings. From what we know, Hanafuda himself was the collector of ancient zoans. As such, Hanafuda himself likely would personally go to Wano to deliver ancient zoans there each time. Considering Kaido was his only buyer, Hanafuda was most likely at Wano extremely frequently. So considering there was a very short window of time wherein we can place Ace having defeated Hanafuda, as it was before Ace was taken in by Whitebeard and made to join his crew, and considering the only other notable event in Ace's brief solo venture in the New World in that same window was going to Wano, and considering that Hanafuda was likely an extremely frequent visitor of Wano, suddenly the likely time and place of the battle between these two characters is lining up. After all, there isn't really any other context for Ace ending up in a battle with this specific Shichibukai. Ace himself doesn't have an ancient zoan for Hanafuda to want to harvest. But if the clear connection between the characters is Wano and the Beast Pirates, with Ace having arrived intending to fight Kaido, who was Hanafuda's primary ally and buyer, a natural clash would have occurred, and Ace, of course, won in the end. It's impossible to say whether this was before or after Ace's meeting with Yamato, but Wano is a large nation, and Onigashima wasn't even Ace's first stop. We may not know the full extent of Ace's travels in Wano, but we know that he spent some time there, and a battle with one of Kaido's primary allies who was at the island at the same time would have made perfect sense considering Ace's primary motivation at the time was to overthrow Kaido's regime. And so, once again, Ace's story parallels Luffy's. On the journey to attempting to take down Kaido, Ace first came up against one of Kaido's primary allies, a supplier of Kaido's, and defeated him, before vowing to take down Kaido himself next. Of course, as the tragedy of Ace goes, Ace never got to take the next step of doing so, and Luffy had to succeed him in his stead. But this does paint out a very interesting story for Ace. A formidable villain, a Shichibukai that rivaled Doflamingo as a similar mini-boss in relation to Kaido, giving Ace an epic battle in Wano that would in theory have led to an eventual match with Kaido himself that sadly was never to come. It does make me wish that we got to see more of Hanafuda, this villain who was likely one of the primary terrors of the New World, hunting down ancient Zoan users while wielding the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex fruit himself as the quote-unquote king of the lizards. This was the man who was responsible for much of the strength of the Beast Pirates as we see them today. This was Kaido's greatest, unseen ally. So let me know what you think of Hanafuda below, and if you agree that he's the greatest One Piece character who never made it to the manga page. And if you enjoyed this video, then definitely like and subscribe. And you can support me on Patreon to hear my extended thoughts on the symbolic parallels between Kaido and Hanafuda on my weekly podcast. Link in the description below. And remember to get your Surfshark deal for less than $3 a month. Just enter coupon code MORGE for an additional 4 months free at surfshark.com/morge, or just scan the QR code.